All right, welcome to another Thursday. I have some things came to me, some good ideas, but I want to give a chance for questions. So let me open the floor, maybe go one by one, and you think about what comes up for you, what you'd like to hear about. Maybe Mrs. Chin has a profound question because I haven't seen you as often. I only miss you. But my answers are always just my answers. Remember that, with an emphasis in the Eastern philosophy and martial arts. So if you want to raise your hand, go for it. Mr. Avilés, my intuition said you were going to ask a question and I almost said your name. Yes, sir. Go for it. Wait, let me get everybody muted. Hold on. Let me mute and ask you to unmute. Okay, go ahead, sir. Oh, I don't hear you. You have to unmute.
How did you come up with the title, It's a Powerful Life, for your book?
Do you remember the movie?
That's what I was wondering, yeah. That's like my favorite movie, actually.
Yeah, it's a spin on that movie, is the title for recognition, you know. But let's see, why am I not?
Wait, sorry. There's a movie, It's a Powerful Life, or you're
It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah.
So people who know me, they know when they ask how am I doing, I don't say good. I say dynamic and powerful. And so I was playing along that with the recognition of it's a wonderful life. And it's a powerful life because in the martial arts practice, it can develop your inner self, your power. Many people talk about that. They say, to live in your power, to act in your power, to, your inner power. So it's really playing on that to practice in a way that you can ultimately be yourself. That's what that means. Did you have a chance to read it, or you just saw the title?
Yeah, I read the whole book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very good.
Well, thank you, sir.
And did you self-published it?
I did. Because you maintain control.
Yes.
Yeah, I had another book accepted actually by a publisher, and I never completed that one. I actually decided to change course, and then I went with this one and decided I just want to keep total control of it.
Yep. You don't want anybody distorting it.
Yeah, and I tell you what you can or you can't put in there, and I didn't want to deal with all that. I didn't expect it to sell millions of copies. I really just wanted to reach students and prospective students, people who want to train. It's sort of a expansion on this class, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's really the deeper philosophical aspects and understanding why we practice and what you can get out of the practice. What was your favorite part?
I can't even say offhand.
Anything stand out?
Just I'm mixing up like mindfulness and stuff that I read in your book. Like I'm trying to think. I like the fact that you went all the way back to like when you were a kid, how you started fighting, like why you wanted to learn kung fu, because all the gangs in your neighborhood and stuff. Actually, let me think. You touched on it when you were in meditation one night too, how there were some kids that beat the hell out of one of your friends, like a gang of kids was looking for you and they beat up this other kid. And then you saw that all your friends, so-called friends, just stood there and let it happen. And from that point, you kind of distanced yourself from them because you kind of saw them that they weren't really your friends if they wouldn't defend this other kid, And also, there was a point where someone you were going to school with had something negative to say about some other people, and this was after you started kung fu and you kind of stopped partying and drinking. And you thought to yourself, who are you to say that about those people? What makes you think you're better? And that kind of, I think that's the whole start to killing the ego, not judging everybody based off of their superficial appearance, because we have so much more in common than we have apart. But oftentimes people base their judgments on people on their exterior superficial things, So yeah, and there were a bunch of other good things. I'd have to reread it. That's the thing about good books. You just gotta reread it, and every time you do, you get something else out of it.
Yes, sir. So what you brought up, yeah, that was, I'm glad you said that actually, because that's how it reached me early on. It had a profound effect on me. And I want to compare that to today because it came up in conversation. So today how easy it is to argue, right? Especially politics. And this is I don't have the study in front of me, I can't reference it, but there was actually a study that shows if you only get your information from one perspective, it literally rewires your brain, and it's a form of brain damage. That you can't see the other side of things, that you think everyone else is wrong. And so going back to what you brought up in the book, my background, to recognizing that nobody's better than anyone else. Everybody comes into this world at 10, and it's what you do with it that can make you a 3. It's just how you respond in life. And martial arts is supposed to get you to realize you're a 10, and as well as everybody else's. And today, I want to be careful because of really there are very clear sides, and we really see the divide and conquer being very sophisticatedly applied, that we can't even listen to each other's opinions anymore. The judgment has gone beyond belief, really. Who's right, who's wrong? How can we possibly learn about each other and about just beyond our own belief system if we don't listen to others? In the practice, in the martial arts, we're always supposed to come into the practice and not bring the outside world in with us. And this is very hard. We've always taught not to socialize really outside the practice, outside the dojo. And it's not like trying to control someone's life. It's because of the maintaining a purity. And what do I mean by that? Well, today we have 2 very obvious sides, and I very consciously try to stay as unbiased and in the middle as possible to see both sides. But I notice on one side, if you question them, they immediately believe you're on the other side. They label you, and it puts you into a box. It puts you in a perspective which shuts them down, you see. Our practice should develop a real sense of self and an awareness to be able to see things as they are and not how you think they are. So where am I going with this? It's the judgment. It's the geez, as long as I've been teaching, I've always talked about the programming. We come up right from a baby. If your parents are afraid, if your mother's afraid of spiders and screams when she sees one, then the baby's going to scream when they see a spider. They don't even know where the fear came from. So we're very unaware of why we think the way we do. And it's just a fact that there are ways to control thinking, to brainwash. They understand imprinting. They understand how a child could be raised in a particular way with traumas, creating traumas and threats and just exposing them to certain things that will actually shape the brain. And I believe it's become so sophisticated that none of us are really aware of our programming, of the brainwashing. Unless you are, I guess is what I want to say. Because you think about, you brought up these kids who they were looking for me and they beat up a friend, right? And what are the characters in this play? People generally who do, we'll call it evil, who do bad things, right, to others, in their minds, they're justified. Like, they're not trying to be bad. They're just trying to get what they want out of life. They're doing what they believe is right. They're with their friends and they believe that the other side is somehow a threat to them one way or another. And it's a threat even to their perspective of the world, how they see the world. If a child grows up fatherless, they could have a real problem with a child who grows up with both parents. Jealousy, envy, whatever. It angers them. And so they believe, because of their world experience, that going after and hurting that other one is somehow justified in their minds. They don't realize it. And I have to say, that's that's a kind of brainwashing. That's a kind of brain damage. Because we'll call it a normal human being, whatever you think that means. They don't want to hurt others. Something has to trigger that makes you think somehow that's protecting you. That's making your life better somehow. That's making you progress somehow. You know, it's like beating others down so you can rise up. And that's a falsity. That's a falsity that never satisfies. And I think that's really what starts to come to light through the practice, is that you start to realize what has lasting effects on us in a positive way and what doesn't. There are many people who've got millions, if not billions of dollars. They have everything they could desire, and then they have children, and a child gets a drug overdose or suicide or something, and you think, well, why, all the things I work so hard for, and they have everything and it's so easy for them, and yet they took their life. Because there is no satisfaction in that. It's not saying it's bad, it's not saying it's wrong. It's saying that that's not where satisfaction in life comes from. So if somehow you think your life will get better by somehow putting down or hurting others, you're going to have a very rude awakening probably many times in your life. You'll probably have relationships where you have, bad breakups, probably divorces, probably multiple times. Probably when you have children, you won't have any relationship. You'll have a lot of fighting. You'll blame them because they're spoiled or whatever. When you're the parent, and how the heck did you raise them? But it comes back to that pointing to someone else all the time. I learned in martial arts to look in the mirror. Something bad happens to me, I blame me. It became a reflex, a habit. It's on me. And, someone could agree or disagree, whether it's their own life or even mine. It's like, well, that's not your fault. I say, yeah, it is. Somehow it is. I may not even understand how it's my fault. But I made a habit to take responsibility for what I'm experiencing. So yeah, early on, it was, okay, so I come behind the schoolyard and I see all my friends looking at this guy. Literally, he had, I don't want to go into detail, he was beat up pretty bad. He was throwing up, he was crying, he was full of dirt, he literally wet his pants, okay? He was scared. And there they are, a bunch of them. We're talking 8 to 10. And my reaction it made me sick. And maybe this was one of those things that influenced, well, I know it did influence my life, because why would I even write about it? Obviously, it stayed with me. But what I'm getting at is you can't count on anyone but yourself. Don't count on anyone but yourself. Now, that's not a true statement. I'm saying how it affected me. That if something's to get done, I need to do it. If something's wrong, I need to fix it. You know, I can't look to someone else to fix my life. I can't count on someone else to jump in and do what needs to be done. I need to do it. Call that what it is. I don't believe it's simply right or wrong. It's simply how I live. And that experience was a big effect on it. And then if we start to see what I like to call the spark in the divine in all that is, I mean, it doesn't matter even if it's human. It could be any animal, any insect, any bird, whatever. All different forms of life. And you seeing everything as the spark of the divine. It's our thinking that looks at someone and puts them down. I remember very clearly that moment walking into the back of the school, the high school, and he said to himself, where they could hear it, he mumbled something like dirtbags. And in my mind right away was like, who the hell are you? And this was a friend since we were in probably first grade. And what it caused me to do is reflect on myself. Am I like that? If I am, I need to fix that because that is not right. I do not want to be like that. And I remember my sister ran with different groups, not like my groups, a couple of years younger than me, but she hung out with people my age and even older. And once in a while, I would have some conversation with one of her friends, and being on the other side, so to speak. And by this time, I was, I hope to think I was a better person seeing things that way. And we would talk and we would laugh and they would say, I never knew you were like this. You know, I basically thought you were some negative word. And that reminds me too, like, how the hell are you appearing to the world around you? Do they see you as an a-hole? If that's true, why? If somebody looked at you that way, do you get angry with them and say, F you? Or do you look in the mirror and wonder, well, why would you think that? Martial arts taught me to look that way. Why would they think that? And I'm glad they don't think that now that they got to know me better. And in my opinion, back then with that friend saying dirtbags, I'm sure it's something that I always let go. I probably looked like I agreed. And so what are you? What are each of us? We are the same as the company we keep, and we'll be judged by it. And so you have friends that cause trouble, cause pain, put down others. Yeah, you're going to attract in your life the judgment that they deserve, but maybe you don't. But you do because you're there with them. That's your friend. So I think another part of that is, what do you call a friend? Through life, we have many acquaintances, and we never should look down on anybody, but does that mean everyone then should be your friend? What is a friend? See, to me, the true friend would have jumped in even if they got hurt when that other kid was getting hurt. They jump in and stop it. My feeling is they were probably laughing, and it made me nearly sick to my stomach. And after that day, I hardly saw those people. They were, I mean, through all grammar school, we were high school, we were early part of high school, and we were done. We were done. I lost all respect. You know, to this day, I have very few real friends. And I think any of you could probably say the same. You may have lots of people you call friends, but who would you really count on in hard times? Who could you call that would be there at a moment's notice? I know who they are, and they're very few. And then the question is, are you that for someone else? What kind of mark do we want to leave in this world? If you're going through life, coming back to current events, if you're going through life thinking the other side is wrong, they're bad, they're this, they're that, what does that make you? You could be completely right, and their choices could be completely wrong. But we have to respect each other's judgment, each other's choices. If not just in your mind, if their choices are hurting you, is it emotional? Is it physical? Is it just you think they're hurting you? Because that stuff you can clear. It's like a self-defense situation. You don't have to fight until a line is crossed that you have no choice. Because before that line is crossed, there's no need to fight. If the line is crossed and you're well trained, you can be like a sharpshooter. You can hurt them bad and be done and then help them. Call 911 or whatever, with no bad feeling towards them. That's a pretty high level. To be able to handle a situation, stop them, and then help them if necessary, rather than have anger and judge, this bad person. Everybody is making the best choices they can based on the information and literally programming that they have. I mean, why is TV called programming? That's not by mistake. That's not a coincidence. Entertainment. Do you know what that word means? Entertainment. You enter to hold the mind. You enter to hold the mind. Think about that. So how many hours do people watch every night, every week, month, years? And now you think you have your own thoughts? You like what they told you to like. You hate what they told you to hate. You think what's right, what they told you is right. You think what's wrong, what they told you is wrong. And you don't even know it. We really have to raise the consciousness and wake up to that. And I know people that won't even put on a television because they know it's all subconscious, that you can't even control it. They're so aware of that programming. It's literally brainwashing. It's become very sophisticated. So then you can ask, if you think the world, the country, if you think it's taking a bad direction, what can you do? Well, I think a martial artist needs to take into consideration basic preparation, survival. That's why I say if someone crosses the line, you do what you need to do. If you're just going to stress out, worry, not sleep, and it's going to conquer your existence on a day-to-day basis, yeah, you conquered. That's the word. You lost. You're losing a battle that is basically happening between your ears. At what point does it touch you directly? That's the line that's crossed. Do I need food? Do I need water? Do I need shelter? Do I need warmth? Learning basic survival things can help you even if things go really bad. And if they don't go really bad, and things kind of stay as they are, well, how many people are full of so much anxiety and depression and many suicides because of what's going on between their ears, how they see it? Martial arts is supposed to teach us how to conquer ourselves and ultimately master ourselves. So we don't do that. We figure out, what do we need to do? How can I defend against this? And if it's a good friend or family member that you completely disagree with politically, how can I defend against this? Well, sometimes just listen. Don't have to always argue. You can recognize when you can't win an argument. You're just going to stress things out. You know the old saying, don't talk about politics and religion. There's a reason for that. Because times like we're in now, there's so much polarity. Life can be like an obstacle course. How do you get through it? Less affected. But can you maintain more unbiased perspective? Can you recognize how much brainwashing you have? We all have it. Can you recognize it? Can you change it? Can you think differently? Can you see another person's perspective? That's why, you know, the friend saying, calling them a name. Let's switch it. You be the one sitting there, and these guys are walking by who think who the hell they are. Now, what do you feel? Yeah, the old put yourself in another person's shoes. That could change everything. Proper training in martial arts has to include sparring. That's a physical thing, obviously. That's a physical thing that when you get an opportunity with a lot of different kinds of people, different sizes, different strengths, different energy, some people very aggressive, some people very passive. How do you respond to that? How do you respond to the aggressive one who seems like they want to take your head off? And how do you respond to the one who's more passive and maybe even afraid? How do you deal with that? Can you adjust? Something we try to teach, not try, something we teach our senior students as you're here longer, as you're with us longer, is to be able to train to help anybody get better. So if you're a senior to a junior, maybe by years, and skill level is completely different, how do you train with that person? How do you help them? Can you be a chameleon to change? One this level, one this level, one this level. How do you change? One of the ways I learned to blame myself, regardless of the situation, is it's like if you get punched in the face, it's your fault. So that's a very physical thing in sparring that can teach you how to face the world, how to face other problems, other challenges. You get punched in the face, it's your fault. Like, I need to train better. I need to be better at defense. I remember sparring once with somebody who punched me a few times in the face, and I started laughing. It's like, not mad at them. I was laughing at myself. I didn't get angry. I got like, what's wrong with me? Why am I getting hit? And I think that's the kind of attitude that I was very fortunate to get from just great teachers. Because the other side is no different than the one who steps on, beats on others. If you only can be the one winning, what happens when you lose? You're only happy when you're winning. What happens when you lose? Sure doesn't feel good. But how does it affect you? Remember that figure skater, what was it? Nancy Kerrigan, right? Or the other, when the opponent, the top figure skater, the other top one that could challenge her, went and tried to break her leg, had somebody trying to break her leg. You guys remember that story years ago? Many years ago, right? You know, I realize there's a lot of benefit to winning a gold medal and probably millions of dollars in sponsorships and you know, speaking engagements, et cetera, et cetera. But how much of a reward is it to win that way? It's the same thing with what was in my book. There's something inside you that will never be happy, will never be satisfied. You think that will lead to happiness, and it never does. You do that, you're going to do something like that to anyone. Let's give a chance for another question. Any hands? Any hands? Yes, sir, Mr. Lennon. You
I have a medical question.
Oh, a medical question. Yes, sir.
Okay. What can you tell me about this sciatic nerve? I had a bout with it last week and agony, to say the least. I think I spoke to you a couple Saturdays ago. I had a stiff back from overdoing some core exercises. That Monday I was at work. I turned the wrong way and sharp pain, and I was dying on Tuesday. I literally had I almost fell. I actually did, because I couldn't walk. It's, I'm still a little sore now, but it's much, much, much better. But it was brutal. I mean, why did that happen?
Did you get any x-rays or MRI or anything?
No, I didn't go that far with it. I had this like 18 years ago. I had it happen once before when I was in Vegas, but I haven't had a problem since. I like I said, I had a stiff back about 2 weeks ago. And all of a sudden it went up. It was brutal. Brutal.
Okay. So, well, before I answer just sciatic nerve, did it go down your leg? Did it go to your hip? How far did it go down?
About halfway into my thigh and stuff,
Did you have back pain as well?
Oh yeah, I still do. I just threw the ice down. Yeah, to a point, it's nowhere near what it was. It's getting better, but I couldn't even tie my shoes for a couple of days. Literally.
So I'm going to tell you contradictory to most people, but fortunately, there's plenty of research now proving my point. But I learned many years ago, never ice. You know what you put on ice? A severed limb, so you can preserve it and have it sewn back on. You don't freeze live tissue because you damage all the healthy tissue around it. And I've never iced anything since I learned that. And we're talking back to the 80s. I learned it through martial arts. I learned it through a great Olympic coach. I forget where he was from, Ukraine or something, I forget. But you have to improve circulation. You just have to go really easy. Now, the reason why you have this back attack, you said it got tight first.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know what you personally want to hear through words right now, but I could just give you examples. Football playoffs, sometimes there could be 3 games in a row, 9 hours or 12 hours of football on the weekend. Just example, people got guys drinking beer, sitting on the couch, right? Every year I get guys coming in for back treatments because they're a mess after that, because they were sitting in a position that their back just got tighter and tighter and tighter. So you got to watch how you hold yourself, right? But there's more to that. How strong, and I don't want to necessarily say mobile, but the muscles need to be pliable. The tightness it preempted the spasm. That's really what it is. Okay. The muscles go into such a spasm that I've literally had people come into me saying they ended up in the hospital, and maybe they got a shot or something to relax, or some painkiller medicine to relax like a muscle relaxant, because ultimately it seems like you broke your back because the pain is so severe, but it's just the muscle cramps down so hard. Why? Because your central nervous system runs through your spine and your body is protecting itself. This is why we do a lot of exercises for the body, for the back, but also you have to move correctly. And our practice is supposed to teach us that. So the lower back should be very, and I'm going to ask you in a second what you meant by core exercise. In fact, just tell me now, what core exercises did you do?
The Russian twist.
What?
Russian twist.
Oh, wait a minute. Didn't that come up in class?
Yeah, that's what I was talking that Saturday. It was stiff. And then that Monday, it went out completely.
Yeah, don't.
You were saying, what are you doing in Russian twist?
Yeah, don't do those. Okay, so I already answered this question a little bit.
Yeah, you got. It just that probably set it off, right? I'm thinking.
you have your ribs. That's a thoracic spine, it's called. That's the upper part of the back, okay? And then you have the lumbar spine, the lower back. It's 5 lumbar vertebrae, L1 through 5. Then you have the sacrum, right? That's the tailbone, okay? You follow me?
Yep.
The upper back is flexible, it's mobile. You know, you can do, you should be able to turn your body all the way around without even using your lower back. Like you can lock your hips in place and you should be able to turn your body 90 degrees, okay? The lower back only can turn maybe 15 degrees, and then each one adds to the next one. You can twist more, but that's not supposed to be used much. The lower back needs to be like a post that stabilizes your ability to move. Now, where do you move? Your hips. The hips, the glutes are big muscles. Most of your action, you know, if you have to move something heavy, you're supposed to use your hips. So if your ribs and your upper back has some mobility, has some looseness, and then the hips are used properly, then the lower back is going to be a stabilizer. If your lower back's not a stabilizer and it's how you move, you always have problems with sciatica.
Okay.
Because those muscles were not designed to do that. So all Russian twist, no thank you. If you want to do a twist, the way to do it is to raise your knees. Let's say you're lying on your back. If you want to make the rib cage and thoracic region more flexible, you lie on your back, you bring your knees up past your hips.
Okay.
So, you know, not straight, even a little bit higher than your hips.
Okay.
Pretty clear? Then you could bring the knees side to side, as long as you keep the knees higher than the waist, basically, the pelvic region. If you raise it higher than the pelvic region, it will lock up your lumbar spine so that you don't twist there, because you don't want mobility there.
Okay.
You want suppleness like a younger body, but you don't want mobility.
Right.
So I've worked with police, I've worked with nurses, you know, police grab the suspects, or the nurses who help with moving patients. Or people shoveling or raking or weed whacking, or geez, even reaching in a car for packages from shopping. If you're moving from your back, those muscles are not designed to hold the weight that you're even putting there by leaning forward, and in time you will hurt yourself. Another one is sit-ups or crunches. Very bad. You keep you know, the spine keeps going like this, the disc in between is going to get damaged. And that's why we don't know if you have a damaged disc. So I had 3 herniated discs some years ago, just overtraining. I messed myself up. And it stayed with me for years until I found out a lot of these things. So it became a real due diligence to learn what causes it, how to avoid it, and how you're supposed to use your body properly. So even with 3 herniated discs, once I corrected it or strengthened it and learned the proper way, it never came back either. I don't have that problem. But we're talking 25 years now, so I'm much older, but the back never gave me a problem. So did it heal? I don't know. I didn't bother with another MRI for it, but I don't have a problem, so maybe it healed. But dragging back and proper, you know, the back exercises we do, you roll the hips, you move up the spine with the wave, you even turn sideways and you wave. All of that stuff is to increase the blood flow through the spine and the muscles around the spine. And that's the part that I want to talk about with the stiffness. Every cell in the body needs blood flow for oxygen, nutrients, and to eliminate waste. If you lack blood flow, somebody who sits all the time, somebody who drives for hours and hours, you know, those muscles they're getting numb. They're lacking blood flow. It's like you going without food for days. You know, the cells are hungry, and so everything gets stiff. It's like it's dying. And now you ask it to do something. What do you think it's going to do? It's like waking you up from a sleep and asking you to sprint. How's that going to go? Not very well. So we need to be nice to our bodies. You've heard me say that I believe the best exercise we could all possibly do is a deadlift.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, you actually said the other day, too.
Yeah, and it's simply because one, it's going to make your back basically bulletproof. It's going to make your hips extremely strong, able to handle whatever it is you have to do. And it's going to literally make your posture like you're 20 years younger. Because your muscles, if you're going to hold a good heavy weight in front of you with that barbell, like, you need to learn how to do it properly. But once you stand up with that weight and you do, a few times a week, you'll see month and a half later, people will notice your posture's improved. And because it's very different between, oh, get my head over here and line myself up and trying to remember that, right? Maybe you've heard me say that before. My wife had bought this little thing that she put on her shirt that would buzz if you were offline. Like, you find your alignment, you put it on and it buzzes. She said the thing was going off so much that she threw it away. Because you can't remember. But when the body is strong, when the postural muscles are strong, there's a whole back chain, posterior chain. When it's all strong, it will just hold you there without you having to think about it. And that's why, especially if you're having a back problem, I really recommend deadlifts. I'm a big believer in the kettlebell swing when you learn how to do it properly, which is exactly the same motion. In fact, for the straight posture, I prefer the deadlift. For conditioning, I love the swing, because those same muscles you're going to develop your pelvic region, what the Chinese call the qua, and everything comes from there. All your power. If you want to be able to strike with power, that area has to be very strong. And so much of the training in Qigong and Bagua actually are to develop that too. But the resistance with a deadlift is actually going to develop it a little faster too. That's it. What I would recommend, Mr. Lennon, is pretend. Try to make sure you're there when I'm there in a couple of weeks, okay?
Okay. Well,
in person, so I can show you some things.
okay.
Because what I want to say is, you pretend your lumbar spine, you had surgery and they had to put a rod in your spine. So that part doesn't work anymore. It stays stiff. And then you move from your hips, or you allow your shoulders, looseness in the ribs, but that part is stiff. And like, you want to turn from your hips. You can imagine that?
Yeah.
You keep your torso stays relaxed while you turn. So now you can do all the same things, but you're using those big muscles of your butt and not the small muscles of your lower back. And then whatever is going on in there that's making it so stiff will start to heal too, because there's something it's protecting. It's called splinting. You can imagine a broken bone, you put a splint on it. Your body does that naturally with muscles. It's protecting something. So you might have something going on there that you don't even know about. And you don't want to keep aggravating that. That's a horrible feeling. They say a man with a bad back isn't a man anymore. Because there's no strength, right? You lose all your strength. Does that make sense? Is that helpful?
Very.
Words only go so far, but I hope that was helpful.
It makes a lot of sense.
Okay, great.
Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. Another question. Mr. Antomata, you have a question? There you go.
Sure. Yes, sir. So I've been, every now and then I read some of the Tao Te Ching, and one thing that I read in there, which came up a couple times recently, it says something along the lines of being able to do nothing with a purpose. So it said, do nothing, and then in parentheses, with a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I read it and I try to like internalize things and just kind of sit with it and sometimes I think hard sometimes I try to think deeply of it, and then sometimes I try to not think too much of it and just see if it'll come to me. But what do you make of that? Do nothing with a purpose. Does that mean to not do anything at all? Or does that mean do nothing, but purposefully doing nothing?
Mhm. Okay, so I thought you were going to say do nothing and everything gets done. That's a common question with the Tao Te Ching. Do you remember reading that one? Do nothing and everything gets done. Okay, you get thrown in a river. You can fight the current, or you can just sit there and let it take you where it's going to go. Do nothing with a purpose. You purposely don't try to fight the river. You purposely don't try to fight your life. You learn how to go with the flow in your life. Learn how to recognize opportunities that you have, choices that you have, and go with that path that you feel even from the inside. You don't even have to, you don't have to fight against it. You're going to, that's why the river is the best example. Don't fight the current. Go with it. Let it take you where it's going to take you. Let life take you where it's going to take you. And you'll find your decisions will also be easier when you're actually learning what life is bringing to you and going with it rather than reaching for something way over there that's going to cause a lot of difficulty, a lot of trouble. A lot of Taoist perspective is going with the flow. And it's telling you to choose mindfully to go with the flow. Do nothing purposefully. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, because you have to picture your life, physical, mental, emotional, all the things we face. You're thrown in the river. You're scared. You can drown. You can, so you go into a panic and you fight against it and you exhaust yourself and eventually you drown anyway. Whereas if you just relax and allow yourself to float, the river's going to take you where the river's going to take you. And maybe you can just direct yourself slightly off to get to the shore, to get to the side. Life is exactly like that. Sometimes you're going to face very scary times, very negative times, very challenging times. And in a case like that, do what you can do. But you have to go with the flow. You have to accept what is. And that's a big part of it. What's going on up here between your ears? Because you can take physical action in life. You can do what you need to do. But when you argue with it, why does it have to be me? Why did she have to say that to me? It's like, why ask why? Go with the flow. So you purposefully don't argue with what is. That's it. Does that make sense to you? Does that answer? Yes, sir. Okay. All right, we're going to go to meditation. Good questions, guys. Thank you. So get to a comfortable position.